Descriptive is your first layer. It is important because that is the way you do what? You tell a story. I use the word story. It is a point where you tell a story about what? About what people did in relation to your work. What did they found? How did they do it in terms of methodology? Okay. Now, that is also where you tell where, okay, after the first one where you say, okay, they did this person did that. Similarly, the other person did other thing. Another person did this one. They found this, they found that. Okay, let's say there is always an issue of burning bush in a particular area. Someone has looked at that burning bush and look at it from the angle of weather condition, from a climate change angle. And the person found out that actually, due to the climate change and global warming, the temperature of the environment is increasing to a point where it reaches the ignition temperature of the materials around and it catches fire. And that is how the bush always burns. That's what the person found, right? Another person will look at it and then say, okay, no, the person look at it from the angle of maybe people are smoking and the fire is triggered by smoke. And they found out that actually the remnant of the smoke, this thing, of the cigarette or whatever, is actually what, come in contact with a dry leaf of the bush and it catches fire. That's what the person found. Okay, then there's a possibility that there is a burning bush in different parts of the country or continent, you understand? And someone looked at the same thing, looking at maybe climate change. They found the same thing in Zambia, in South Africa, in UK, and all those things. You report, you understand, that looking at from the angle of climate change and its effect or its contribution to this burning bush, author A looked at it in UK and found out that the global warming is one of the culprits to this burning bush. Similarly, author B in South Africa and C in Zambia and D in Ghana actually alluded to that same fact that climate change that leads to the warming of the environment contribute to the burning bush. So now, what you are doing here is that you've reported what they did. Then the next thing is what? You are grouping them in their agreement angles. Okay? Let's say those that looked at the climate change and agree, you group them together. Author ABC agrees that climate change that leads to the global warming of the environment and increases the temperature of the environment to a point to ignition temperature of a particular material within the bush, and then it catches fire. They agree. Then another author maybe argued and said that there is no how global warming and the rise in temperature of the environment can lead to an ignition temperature, you understand, of a material. Sorry, I think I'm going to science. That lead to a temperature that can cause a material to burn. That is ignition temperature. Make it to, start burning. And he said, no, that it's not the case. But the issue is that there is something that triggered, but because there is already increase in temperature of the environment, so the temperature that will cause that material to burn will be reached quicker. Are you with me? So that means the person is arguing against the other authors that says it's about climate change and global warming. Now, you would say that this person, remember that the second person that argued against agreed that climate change actually contributed, right? There's an agreement there that the climate change causes the increase in temperature of the environment, and which will make that particular material to reach the temperature it can easily catch fire. But now you say, however, the person argued that climate change, it's not the sole contributor to that fire. I mean, it's not the main thing that causes to burn, but it contributes to it. You see now. Now there is a point of convergence agreeing that climate change contributes, right? Then at a point, that particular author deviates from them. That's what they call point of convergence and divergence. So the authors, you group them in their agreed point and disagreement. Which of them agree? Maybe on the other part that says that climate change is not the main thing, there are other authors as well, you understand, that argue from that angle. And they've looked at it from different location, geographical location and all those ones. And they also argue from their point. They all agree that climate change contributes, but they disagree from the point that no, that climate change, it's not the thing that actually started the fire, but it makes it much easier for the fire to start. Now, they've all done this thing. Let's say, for instance, like Mr. Mona said, you are looking at it from one village, from one community in South Africa. Maybe all other people have been looking at burning bush around the city. Now you are looking at the burning bush in the local community. Are we there? That's where you now come in. That all these authors, despite the fact they agree on this and disagree on that, but they all only look at burning bush around the city. None have actually taken time to look at the burning bush in the local communities. Remember that local community also have its own geographical factors, you understand, that could also contribute. Or let's say they've been looking at it like sometimes it will be raining in Pretoria, it's not raining in Joburg. So nobody have actually considered maybe the weather conditions of these places and how quick the burning bush can actually start. That's where you're now going into the what? The critical engagement of that matter. That's where they will say you need to, that point of a synthesis, grouping them in the agreement point, how they disagree. Now, another important layer now comes in. That important layer is now the question, how does it connect to your own work? You've already said it before, right? That all have been looking at the bush within the city, none have looked at the local distance. That's where you now say, this is where this research, this particular one, it's imperative to actually look at this because the city and the local community have different geographical effect that could actually trigger burning. Maybe in the city, children are not playing with fire. But in the village, maybe kids are doing this, their normal cooking things, and they are cooking it near the bush. That becomes another factor. You understand? Different from that of the city. That's where your own, that's what they say, where is your voice? That's where you're coming in to say, there are other factors that could lead to this. Hence, it's imperative that the study about the local community should be looked into because there is a factor like children might be playing with fire, doing their normal village cooking. Maybe hunters are hunting. They might be using some, things to chase animals or like that when they are hunting. Or maybe farmers are actually burning, these are different factors that could contribute, which makes burning bush in the local community different from that of the city. You see now, you see where you are coming in now, bringing now the aspect of your own research into it. That's what they say, where is the golden thread? You understand? Where is the golden thread? The golden thread is constantly make sure you are connecting it back to your own research. Sometimes you might raise it like a question. For the fact that these people did not do this or that, it's important that we ask the question, what could contribute to a bush catching fire easily in the village, which is what this research is trying to examine and to fill the gap. So that by the time we are talking about the discourse about the burning bush, it will be holistic from the village, from the community, and the city. So this is just to add to what, from another example of what Mr. Mona said. So you must, and again, the other end is not the critical part of it, the critical engagement part of it, where you now begin to pick up pattern as if you're analyzing data. You begin to pick up pattern from that same distance again to say, okay, looking at this, we could see that this research was done maybe in October. These other ones were done all within the winter period. You understand? We could see that there is no research that looked at the summer time. And we could see a pattern of things that, okay, all research done within this period, they actually tends to produce similar result. And the ones done this time tend to produce similar results. Maybe you cannot say, actually, not that these two research are not the same. They are actually the same, but the problem here, or the difference here, is that they were not conducted at the same time. So there is a possibility that if they are conducted at the same time, they might produce the same result. That's a pattern you've picked up there. So that is where they will say, where is your voice? And this in academic writing, especially in the literature review angle.